Alors, bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular public meeting of the Dieppe City Council. Without further ado, we'll begin with the opening word, with the land recognition, rather. The City of Dieppe recognizes the land on which it operates as part of the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq. The peace and friendship treaties that the Mi'kmaq jointly developed and signed with the British Crown in the 18th century apply to this territory. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of land or resources, but recognized Mi'kmaq title and set out the rules for what was to be a lasting relationship between the parties. Also, dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, I'm calling the meeting to order. Confirmation of quorum. Clearly we have quorum. And there's one of our councillors is outside the office. She's participating via Zoom. Councillor Godbout. Adoption of agenda? No, sorry, conflict of interests first. There are no conflicts, nothing. All right, we will continue. We will move now to adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lantang. On the question. Seeing no questions, those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed saying nay. The agenda has been adopted. We will continue with the item number 7, presentations, inquiries, and petitions. And we, as usual, we start with 7.1, inquiries by council members, Kodiak Regional RCMP. And as is often the case, we have, and I just try to find her mic, find his mic rather. The superintendent is here. Mr. Jolet. I haven't been here. I haven't been here for a long, long time too. All right, thank you, Your Worship, and members of the council and city staff, and the public as well. There's a lot of people here. So I wanted to begin by saying that I hope everybody's had a good summer. The weather's a bit strange, a lot of rain at night and heat during the day, and now we're in August and it's the temperatures are going down to 12 at night. So, but I hope that everybody's had a good rest at least. Now, Ms. Farah is on vacation this week. She is spending the week with her family. So you'll see her at the next meeting. So thank you for the invitation. I want to go through a few things that have happened since the last meeting. So as Ms. Farah did, and I'll go through the different units of the Kodiak RCMP and give you a few highlights. So the community unit continues to be busy and visible throughout the city, and they're targeting problematic areas. One thing that I would like to talk about is something that's quite funny, especially or fun. It was on August 13th. We were able to welcome 13 young women from across Canada. And these are not just from New Brunswick, but young women from other provinces as well. And they were visiting in the context of a program that explored careers in public safety. So we were able to host those young students for a full day. And throughout the entire day, they met with women who in different positions at the Kodiak RCMP. So one of our officers works with dogs, for example, investigators. We also went to Dieppe here to meet the employees who work with that talk to the police officers over the radio. So it was a really good experience. So we're in a recruitment campaign, and it was a good experience for them and for us as well. So it helped us understand what people want and what are they looking for in terms of a career in public safety. The next team is the crime reduction unit. On July 11th, the team were working with the city of Quebec, with the City Quebec Police Unit, and that's something that we do every day. We work with different police forces throughout Canada. But in this case, there was an individual who had uttered threats against people in a public space. There was a festival in Quebec City, and we found out that that individual lived in Dieppe. So our team, with the help of the police from Quebec City, arrested that individual. Uh, we delivered him to the police in Quebec City, and they were able to deal with that person in Quebec City. So it was a good collaboration between both police forces. And to my knowledge, that's the first time I think that we've worked with the Quebec City Police Force. So, and it's a partnership. So if ever we need their help for people or for files on our side, so we established some good connections there. General Investigations Unit and Major Crimes Unit. I wanted to talk about a file that you've certainly seen in the media. Again, July 11th. And this was a luring of a child. It involved an American in his 20s who came to the region, and he met with a youth under the age of 16. And there were witnesses who told us that the individual and the youth were at that indication, or at a given location. We were able to find them and detain the individual and save the child. So he was arrested, and the next day he appeared in provincial court in Moncton to deal with 5 different charges, all in connection with crimes of a sexual nature, so production of juvenile pornography, luring of a child, and so forth. So we were also able to discover that this individual had come to our region in the past, and we were able to file 5 additional charges on July 24th with respect to the same individual. So this individual is still in detention, and it's a complicated file. These files are difficult for the investigators working on it. The work days are long. You need a lot of documents to get the necessary legal authorizations, and it's difficult emotionally as well. So we have to take care of our police officers, because these files are not easy to deal with. And for the victim as well, and the family, we will continue working with them until we get to trial. Because we know that cases, once they get to court, can take up to a year and a half. They can be long. So we'll continue working on this file. But I'm very proud of the work of our officers that day, because they were able to go to the location immediately. And if we had not responded as quickly, that young person could still be victimized. I also wanted to give you an update on the Louis Street incident in late July. We arrested a 3rd suspect connected to that. So we're talking about an individual, a 31-year-old individual. So he was arrested, and in the northern New Brunswick with the assistance of Correctional Services, New Brunswick. And this is the third arrest that is connected to this investigation. And we're not expecting any further, any no further arrests are anticipated. So Kyle Smith Kingsley was charged with first degree murder, and all those individuals are still in detention, in custody rather. So our traffic enforcement team were busy on August 4th. So this was Friday just before the conference, and it was excellent timing. So we joined this team to do traffic patrols in the Greater Moncton community, and we were able to hand out 187 traffic violations, and 13 vehicles were towed. There were various issues. Some were there were also drivers under the influence and people who didn't have their licenses as well. And what was good about the timing is that the next day was the concert. So we were there to ensure traffic safety during the entire concert. And the person who is in charge of that unit is a longtime friend of mine. And he promised me that they were going to come back often in our region to encourage drivers to slow down. So, which brings me to the next point that I wanted to remind people. On June 27th, the New Brunswick government came up with a new legislation related to speed. So the new law gives us new tools. We can give higher fines, and we can also tow vehicles if they reach a certain speed. So in 50-kilometer zones, if you're in a hurry, it's easy to get to the level where we can issue big fines and even seize the vehicle. So the message has started circulating. So people who speed at dangerous limits will lose their vehicles, and the first time it's 7 days. And if in cases of repeated speeding, their vehicles can be seized for up to 30 days. And I imagine, we'll get to a point where we'll be able to seize vehicles for longer times. So there was an operation at Rotary Park on July 29th. That was a difficult day for everybody involved. I can't even imagine for the family, but there were a number of resources, including the rescue team, and thanks to the help of volunteers, we were able to put an end to the operation. Now, unfortunately, the results were sad, but I would like to thank everyone, especially the residents, because it was a very busy location. People take the trails with their dogs and their bikes. So thank you to everybody in Dieppe. It wasn't an easy day. Now, I talked about this earlier. I talked about the consent. On August 5th, there were over 25,000 people in attendance, and we talked that there were people from around the province and elsewhere. So this was a difficult operation, and with YQM, we really need to have a detailed operational plan. And so we had been working with our partners for a number of weeks on this, but with the resources that we had in sight, everything went quite well. There were people on foot and people on bikes, and people enjoyed the concert. So in another week and a half, we'll have 3 very busy days, and I can tell you that we've been preparing this the operational plan since April. There are frequent meetings, and for those who will attend that event, you'll probably see me there. I'll be there on Thursday and Friday evening. So, and I'm anxious to see what kind of results we have, but and it's not just anybody who's coming to visit us. It'll be a big concert. So now the last thing I wanted to say is that we're August, it's August 14th. We've got 3 weeks now before school starts again. So I just want to remind people that, there will be young children on the roads again. You'll see more police, but you'll also see school buses. So so if it's not enough to have the threat of having your vehicle seized, just keep in mind that there will be children on the streets as well. So in conclusion, I just want to wish everyone a happy National Acadian Day. All right, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from council members? Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Colette. It was an interesting report. And I just wanted to point something out that 3 weeks ago, I was able to see for myself. I saw a number of people being arrested on Champlain, and I looked to l'Acadie, and there was another RCMP vehicle that was doing arrests. And I noticed that in the afternoon, the traffic was a lot slower. People were more relaxed. And I think it bore fruit. As you said, the message is getting across. We know that police are going to be there. But congratulations. It was a great job. Thank you, Councillor Trudeau. And this is just the start. We've had this new legislation has been in effect for 6 weeks. And as I've also said in the past, there are also 300 sections of the act that we can enforce as well. So we get over 40,000 calls per year in the region. And we are always looking for, cars that are speeding, people driving with their cell phones in their hands. People maneuver trying to move around school buses. So we really make an effort to look out for those people. And police are always looking to see where they can have the greatest amount of impact during the day. And I'm very pleased with the work that they've been doing. But we're not giving up, and it's just the beginning. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to congratulate you for the communications that you've been doing with us recently. So both here at the meetings and what Ms. Farah does as well, but also the communications that you send us by email each time that something's happening in the region. We really appreciate it. That's a good point. I just wanted to tell the council that in the next few weeks, we have a new employee who's in charge of communication. So if you, in the past, those messages came from me, but now it'll be Melissa Haché sending them. She'll be the one starting to send those messages, and we'll be sharing even more. I want to share not only what we're putting on our website and our social media, but I want to send daily information as well. Things that don't necessarily show up on the front page of the paper, but things that people want to know that are going on. Councillor Odette. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. With regard to subdivisions, people driving, if people take the license plate down number, can they call you? And yeah, well, even if you don't have the license number, if you know the make and the model and the color of the car, we can do something with that. We'll pay a visit to that person. And often just paying a visit this is maybe somebody who didn't realize that they were speeding or was never been told to slow down. But when we have a license plate number, that's even better because then we can confirm that that is the same, it's the same vehicle. So that's why it's important that people call us. People need to call us whenever they're bothered by something. If you hear a vehicle that's driving and it's too noisy or driving too quickly or drives through a stop sign, or if, often people will say, it's not worth it. But yes, it is. It's important. It's important that you call because our analysts will conduct studies to know where we need to go, what time, what day, what time, and what corner, what street corner. It's exactly that kind of information that will direct our analysts. Okay, so if we take the license number, will they get a fine? Well, possibly. It depends on the situation. It'll depend on the circumstances of the incident. Right. Thank you. All right, I think that's it for questions. All right, as usual, thank you for being here. Thank you for your involvement. And please pass on our that message to all your to all your team members. All right, next item for us. And as usual, you are always welcome to stay with us, but we also understand why that you can't stay. All right, 7.2, Policy Z2 2023, the antenna system siting policy. Charles-Éric Landry from the planning department is here to give us this presentation. Right. Welcome, Mr. Landry. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. Well, we already have a policy with the City of Dieppe regarding antenna siting, but in this case, so we've used that as a basis and we've revised it, and we've just made a few adjustments. So I've come to make a presentation on that. So we're going to start just by reviewing the regulatory context, the choice of locations. I'll talk about the current situation, then I'll talk about the proposed changes, and I'll show you a bit of a case study to show how this new policy will apply. In terms of the regulatory context, telecommunications antennas and towers are a legislative responsibility of the federal government, and they fall under Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada. And it's important to keep that in mind because it's the federal government that has the last word on the location or on the siting of antennas. So municipalities are consulted in the process of locating antenna systems. But even if a municipality is opposed to a tower, the federal government can choose not to listen to that. So it's important to keep that in mind. So because if a municipality decides to always turn down requests and that there's a lack of coverage, the federal government could decide to go ahead with an antenna, even if the municipality doesn't agree. The city adopted its current policy in 2019 regarding antenna location, so 4 years ago. And what we've been able to see since the policy was adopted is that there are certain problems related to its application. There's some provisions that are unclear, and that leads to the systematic rejection of siting requests, even in cases where such towers could be desirable. And the sometimes imprecise language also leads to unacceptable proposals from proponents. What are the proposed changes? One of the things, or one of the problems that we've noticed, is that we were saying nothing, or we were saying always saying no to residential zone applications without defining what residential zone means. So think about, we've got rural zones, commercial zones, and in some contexts, in certain conditions, it might be preferable to locate a tower. So we've added conditions. So for example, a 30-meter tower would have to be 1 times the height, or 45 meters away from a right of way or residential lot. So let's give you an example here. Dover and Emiro. So we don't see the rural zone here, but the majority here is but it's what you see basically in white. Now, under the current policy, we would not be able to have a tower or an antenna here, even though there's no development or there's no residential uh, neighbors, or there's a commercial zone. So residential zones are red, and the zones that would be where it would be acceptable are in blue, but with a 1.5 setback. So there's a buffer zone of 45 meters. But if the tower was 60 feet high, then it would still be 1.5 times the height of the antenna. So we think that the changes that we've made will clarify the policy, and it will help proponents know what they're dealing with, and it will allow us to approve projects that are desirable, and we can continue to reject projects that are not desirable. So if you have any questions or comments, you can ask them now. Any questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Now, since this is a federal responsibility, does this policy have any real weight, or are there negotiations with the federal government? No, well, the federal government, before giving an authorization, will ask for a consent letter from the municipality. But it retains the power to authorize the project. Now, normally it respects it abides by the choice of the municipality. If the municipality does not want to consent to a tower being constructed, but if there are repeated rejections, the federal government, if the federal government sees that there's a lack of coverage in a given area, it can decide to say, well, listen, you always reject these projects, so it can go ahead and approve one. So we want to have a certain openness for certain towers, and not just reject every application that's made. All right, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Godbout. Thank you. Can you hear me? My question has to do with the impact on existing owners. Well, a proponent cannot set up a tower on land without the owner of that land consenting. There are leases that are signed with the owner to have access to the land, or they might even purchase the land outright, or a parcel of land. So this policy does not remove or does not eliminate the right of the owner to refuse a tower on his or her land. And what about the adjacent owners? What's the impact? Well, in terms of residential owners, that's where we have that 1.5 times the height of the antenna. but for antennas that might have an impact, someone who's an owner and who, if the tower.
Autre question?
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you for the presentation. I think it's very clear. I know that the city usually has very good relationships with the different users of our towers, our water tower, for example, that brings us interesting revenue in the circumstance, which brings us to number 8, questions by members of the public. Our vast public here doesn't seem to have any questions this evening, so let's move on to the adoption of minutes of the last few meetings. First of all, the regular council meeting held on July 10th. Who would like to move it? Councillor Boudreau? Moved by Councillor Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Brito on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It is carried. And the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 10th have been adopted as presented. And there was also a special council meeting held on July 25th. It's been moved by Councillor Lantaigne and seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. All those in favor? You weren't there on the 25th? July 25th? No, I wasn't there. Okay, well, I wasn't present. Would somebody else like to move and second? Councillor Leboutillier. So thank you for that. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Which brings us to motions, memorandums, and nominations. Item number 10, 10.1 for the administration, 10.1.1, request for exemption. Mr. Melançon, thank you. Councillor Godbout has her hand raised. I just wanted to indicate that I must leave the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. As first item this evening, we've received a request for an exemption for prohibiting an exemption of the bylaw prohibiting excessive noise. This was on the owner at 589 Grégoire Street to organize an outdoor party, and they've asked if they could have an exemption until 12:30 a.m. They've followed all of the procedures. They've written to their neighbors to advise them of them, and it is recommended by staff to authorize this exemption for the evening of August 19th until 12:30 a.m. Thank you. Thank you. And who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Brito. Thank you, Your Worship. That pursuant to Section 4 of Bylaw S9 2018, prohibiting excessive noises, Council authorized an exemption to said bylaw in order to allow a special event on the property located at 589 Grégoire Street on August 19th, 2023 until 12:30 a.m. And I so move. It's been moved by Councillor Brito, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It's carried as presented, which brings us to 10.10.1 10.1.2, ratification of different directives adopted at closed meetings. Mr. Melançon, we have two directives that we're going to make public this evening. The first one is a land exchange at the corner of Champlain and College Streets with the property owner of 006-73400. This is a land exchange for an equal surface area to improve the intersection at Champlain and College Streets. The project is under construction currently, and it will be fully developed following that. And the second directive was for land purchase on Bourg Road. We had a right-of-way for the trail, and we therefore purchased the parcel of land that is on Bourg Street for an amount of $15,000 on PID 704-31515, and this is to make this land purchase public this evening. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor? I'm getting there. Councillor Lantagne, sorry about that. I have memory blanks here. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council ratify the directives adopted at closed meetings of Council concerning the following topics. 1, land exchange, PID 0067430, Champlain and College Streets, adopted on August 8, 2022. And 2, land purchase, 1058 Bourg Road, PID 704-31515, adopted November 28, 2022, and I so move it. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Lantagne and seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question? No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. We are now at number 10.2.1 for the renewal of the service agreement with the pension consultant services. Mr. Melançon. Yes, and we recommend that Couture Services Financiers Incorporé is renewed, and as authorized by Council this evening, it's a renewal of a service agreement that was already in effect. The RFP allows the city to renew it, so we recommend that it be renewed. Thank you. And this is for the employees, City of Dieppe employees pension plan. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Godet. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorized the renewal of the service agreement with Couture Services Financiers Inc. relating to pension counseling services for City of Dieppe employees as recommended by the City of Dieppe Pension Plan Advisory Committee. And I so move it. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy. On the question? Councillor Leboutier. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question of information to ensure transparency. In the notes that we received, we talk about a percentage here, but what does that represent in terms of fees over the years? What are we talking about in terms of fees? Ms. Godbout from Finance. It's about $60,000 or $70,000. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. 10.2.2, a financial incentive. Mr. Melançon. Yes, as you well know, we do have an incentive program for the development of the downtown area. The owner of 339 Champlain Street has a project underway, and they are eligible for this incentive. So this is to promote the densification in the downtown core. They're eligible for $75,000. They're also going to create parking areas for at $10,000 each and a carport types parking at $5,000 per parking spot created for a total of 21. So they are eligible for a total financial incentive of $499,840, and the financial services of the municipality will recover this investment within a 6-year period. So this is for your approval under policy EXPD 1 2022, and this is our recommendation for your approval this evening. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorize the payment of a financial incentive estimated at $499,840 to 339 Champlain Development, Inc. for the project located at 339 Champlain Street under the policy EXPD-1 2022 for real estate densification of the downtown core, conditional upon said project receiving the necessary approval from the various city departments and meeting the requirements of the aforementioned policy as well as municipal bylaws. That Council further authorize this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-20-19-2592, General Operating Budget, Financial Incentive. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau and seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. No questions. So all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It's carried as presented. Thank you. Let's move on then with the issue of urban mobility, 10.3.1, a tender award for the purchase of 6 bus shelters. Let's start with the bus shelters, yeah. Okay, so this is a recommendation to install 6 bus shelters. 3 are replacement ones, 3 are new ones. And it's recommended to go with Daytech Limited for a total of 112,620 plus HST. At the new, they will be at 330 Amiro, 72 Amiro, and 857 Amiro Street. Those will be the new ones, and the replacement will be along Dieppe Boulevard, along Adelaide-Savoie Boulevard, and on Fox Creek Road. So we're always trying to improve the experience of the transit users, and so this is what we recommend this evening. Thank you. Would like to read the resolution? Councillor Brideau. That Council award the tender for the design, manufacture, and the purchase of 6 bus shelters for future installation on city territory to Daytech Limited at a cost of $112,620 plus HST, and authorize this expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-20-12-7904, General Capital Budget, Equipment Purchase, Bus. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Boudreau on the question. Councillor Boudreau, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to have some details on the replacement of 3 of these bus shelters. What condition were they in? Why are we replacing them rather than adding 3 additional ones, 3 new ones elsewhere? Mr. Richard, well, we want solar bus shelters, and some of them are more favorable, more suitable for that than others. Some of them can be repaired sometimes, and we've always done that in the past. We can continue using them. But in this case, well, in part, it's because we're installing solar ones, but also we have a federal funding support, which is higher if we replace our bus shelters than if we repair them. So that plays into the decision as well. Okay, so some of them may possibly be reused elsewhere. That's our intention, yes. Because at the same time, there are so many areas of the city that could really benefit from having these bus shelters instead of replacing one that's already existing there. I just wanted to make sure that, well, it's a start. Of course, we will continue adding new bus shelters over the next few years, but if we have to repair them, we have to remove them anyhow. So we might as well remove them and replace it with a new one while we repair the old one. So we'll see if we can reuse some of the ones we remove. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Le Boutier. Thank you. My question was exactly the same. Councillor Godet, I have a question. We only received one bid. How are these published? These tenders? Is it's a company from Ontario, I believe. Yeah. So all our other RFPs, it goes onto the provincial system, and all suppliers can sign up to receive the award notices, so they can come from across Canada. Anybody can sign up for it. Okay, so they have to go through this website because there might be companies or there might be companies that manufacture this that are located in Dieppe. Bus shelters, it's a very specialized field, and there are businesses that only do that. And there aren't a great number of them across Canada. But if I understand correctly, most of the businesses that deal with government are are on the NBON government federal government opportunities network, so they're made aware. Okay, thank you. I was just wondering how they learned about these RFPs. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented, which brings us to 10.4.1, paving stones repair work at place 1604. Yes, so we want to repair and replace some of the paving stones around 1604 according to our budgets. And so we'd like to go over what we have the authority or the authority that we have at $50,000. We want to do twice as much to replace some of these paving stones that are really deteriorated. So this is the approval we're asking for this evening to really improve the accessibility of the sidewalks around the City Hall and place 1604. The company has already done a certain amount of work up to $50,000. Is this to allow them to continue on doing the work? For 100,000. Thank you. To read the resolution, Councillor Lantin. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorized Godet Landscaping 2020 Limited to undertake the repair work of paving stones located around place 1604 at the cost of $100,000 plus HST, and further authorize this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-35-63-2630, General Operating Budget, Curb and Sidewalk Maintenance, Public Works, and account number 1-2-70-80-3005, General Operating Budget, Public Land Facilities, and I so move it. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Lantin, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No questions. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented, which brings us to 10.5, Planning and Development, 10.5.1, a PAC recommendation on the amending tentative plan for the Corporation de Développement Économique de la Ville de Dieppe subdivision. Yes, so it's been recommended by the PAC that the city allow more space at the intersection of L'Acadie and Marché Street. So we are hoping to connect up a trail along Marché Street as well. So we need to amend the tentative plan. Well, it's just an amendment of the tentative plan. And this is what's recommended by the Planning Advisory Committee, and we are recommending it as well. Who would like to read it? Councillor Le the resolution. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Corporation de Développement Économique de la Ville de Dieppe subdivision, amending tentative plan, which provides for the widening of a portion of Marché Street. And I move this with pleasure, Your Worship. Thank you. And who would like to second it? With pleasure? With pleasure, yes. Councillor Turgeon Roy will also second it with pleasure. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. It's carried as presented. Which brings us to 10.5.2. Mr. Melanson. Yes, we received a request from Killam Properties to modify one of the conditions that had been agreed to in zoning bylaw Z-10-1, which to allow office space in their office, but they want to withdraw this in order to create an additional residential unit. So we will schedule a public hearing on September 25th for this issue here at Dieppe City Hall. And we will also ask for written views of the Planning Advisory Committee. And we'd like to extend the deadline to November 14th. So this is to start the process. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Turgeon Roy. That Council schedule a public hearing on September 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Dieppe City Hall to hear objections pertaining to the proposed modifications of conditions relating to zoning bylaw Z-10-1 for the land identified under PID 706-24358 in order to allow for the addition of a residential unit. The Council requests the written views of the Planning Advisory Committee and extend the deadline pursuant to Section 110.3 of the Community Planning Act to November 14th, 2023. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Turgeon Roy, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It's carried as presented. Now, 10.5.3 for the approval of a landscaping plan. Mr. Melanson. Yeah, Bounty Food has made a zoning application several months ago. This is the last part of the procedure to approve the landscaping plan. It's been recommended by the PAC to adopt this plan that you find as an appendix to your report, and that we adopt this and move on to final reading of the bylaw Z-9. So who would like to read the resolution? Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council accept the landscaping plan outlined in Schedule C of the memorandum dated July 26, 2023, entitled Landscaping Plan, prepared by the firm J.R. Daigle and dated June 27, 2023, which meets conditions number 4 of the resolution adopted by Council on July 10th, 2023, entitled PAC Recommendation Rezoning Application PID 006-74416 Champlain Street, Bounty Foods. And that Council proceed with the reading in its entirety and the third reading of bylaws Z-9 2017-9 and Z-10 2021-8. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Laboutière on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented, which brings us to 10.5.4, the adoption of policy Z-2. And who would like to read this resolution? Councillor Boudreau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council repeal the policy Z-2 2019 on the City of Dieppe antenna system siting policy and adopt policy Z-2 2023 entitled City of Dieppe antenna system siting policy. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Godet on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. 11.1, Mr. Melançon. Yes, as mentioned earlier, for Bonte Foods, we have to make final reading in the entirety and final reading of two bylaws. Thank you. Who would like to read bylaw Z-9 2017? Who would like to read it in its entirety? Councillor Thibodeau. A bylaw Z-9, a bylaw to amend a bylaw relating to the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan bylaw. The City Council of the City of Dieppe, under the authority vested in it by the Community Planning Act SND 2017, Chapter 19, enacts as follows. The bylaw relating to the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan, being bylaw number Z-9 2017, enacted on the 11th day of September 2017 and filed in the Westmoreland County Registry Office as number 335533874-2 on November 3rd, 2017, is hereby amended as follows. Schedule A-1 entitled Generalized Land Use Map, whenever it is mentioned in the text of the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan, bylaw is amended by the map hereto attached as Schedule A-1-11, and I so move this reading in its entirety. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. And it's adopted as presented, which brings us to third reading by title only. That makes it easier. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. A bylaw to amend a bylaw relating to the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan bylaw, and I move third reading by title only. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau and seconded by Councillor Brideau. Still, yes? Okay. All those in favor? Oh, questions, first of all. All those in the favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay. So 11.2.1 is carried in the third and final reading, which brings us to another bylaw, bylaw Z-10, 2021-8, to amend the zoning bylaw, Champlain Street, Bonte Foods. And who would like to read it in its entirety? You still have a voice left, yes? It's bylaw number Z-10, 2021-8, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Dieppe, under the authority vested in it by the Community Planning Act, SNB 2017, Chapter 19, enacts as follows. The City of Dieppe zoning bylaw, being bylaw number Z-10, 2021, enacted on the 12th day of April 2021 and filed in the Westmoreland County Registry Office as number 411-73189 on April 15th, 2021, is hereby amended as follows. Schedule A, entitled City of Dieppe Zoning Map, whenever it is mentioned in the text of the zoning bylaw, is amended by the map hereto attached as Schedule A-7, and I so move this in its as reading in its entirety. Thank you, Councillor, seconded by Councillor Brideau once again. Any questions? No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary. 11 point. So it's carried. 11 is carried in reading its entirety. And now who would like to read it for a third time by title only? So bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. It's a bylaw number Z-10, and I so move the third reading by title only. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. No questions, so all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It is carried in third reading by title.
Brings us to item 12, notice of motion. Nothing to report. All right. That brings us to the adjournment. Oh, but before that, we will go around the table. We'll start with Councillor Lantaigne. Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing special from me today. Maybe two little things. First of all, happy birthday to our friend and colleague, Councillor Turgeon Roy. She didn't want me to say anything, but maybe it was reverse psychology. Think of the thousands of calls she's going to get after this meeting. All right, so happy birthday. And I would also like to wish everyone a good August 15th, happy Acadian Day. And as a certain group, a well-known group that will be able to hear it tomorrow, be proud of yourselves, be proud of who you are, and take care of yourselves. Thank you. Councillor Godbout is not there. Councillor Turgeon Roy. I don't have much to say either, except to wish everyone a good Acadian Day. Be careful on the roads, and I'm looking forward to the concert. I have a question for Mr. Cormier. With regard to traffic on the Avant-Garde Street, there was going to be a study conducted. I know that you set up radars this summer, but have there been any developments on that area? Well, happy birthday, first of all. We're planning to come to the council in September, maybe August or maybe October, with an update on the policy for trail crossings. We're looking to put more lines, and when the radars were there, we saw a big difference in terms of speed in that area of the park. So, all right, perfect. Thank you. That's all for me. Have a good evening. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few questions from citizens. First, community gardens at the aquatic center. Now, apparently, the deer are eating all the vegetables. So there was a suggestion that we temporarily set up some fencing. Some people have decided not to no longer use the community garden because of this. Another question that I received from someone with regard or following the weather and the damage in Edmundston, does the city of Dieppe have an emergency plan if that ever were to happen here? Mr. Melanson. Well, with regard to the first item, we'll look at that and to see if we can use some snow fences around. We don't want to have any snow in the summer, but now, but in terms of the situation in Edmundston, and we don't envy the situation, the cities in the communities in New Brunswick that are are experiencing flooding and other things. But we do have a structure in plans, retention pools or ponds, for example, that allow us to retain a huge amount of water. Now, the quantity of rain that falls is an important factor. These are all factors that change from case to case, but we do have retention ponds, and we have infrastructure that meet Canadian standards, so we have those things in place. But Mother Nature sometimes, throws surprises at us. But we'll be talking with the other cities in New Brunswick to see what they've done in terms of changes, and if there are things that we should be considering. The staff is always aware. They attend conferences. We've been talking about climate change for a number of years already. It's a reality that we're facing. And so these are things that we try to keep up to date in our practices. In terms of evacuation plans, well, that's actually the head fire chief who's in charge of that. They work with the province on those types of situations, but if there are situations that, we do have, if that ever happens here, we will activate our emergency plan. And so we do have plans at the municipal level, yes. All right, another item. I would like to congratulate Camille Frenette, who won the paratriathlon, 1 hour, 12 minutes and 4 seconds, which was 12 minutes ahead of her rival. And I want to wish her luck in Paris this coming Friday. I have another question here. We've talked about buying new buses quite a while ago. Is there any development? Do we know when we will be getting those buses? Yes, we're expecting a new bus in the fall, probably October, that will be in service in November. And there is an RFP for minibuses as well that will be coming out soon. We've done a lot of analysis, and we'll be issuing a second order this fall for minibuses or larger buses. Okay, good. That's good news. All right, so all I want to do is wish everyone a good Acadian Day. Happy Acadian Day. Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Worship. I'm happy that my colleague asked the question with regard to emergency preparedness and situations that arise that require our attention. When we look at what happened in Nova Scotia very recently, or what's happening in Hawaii, the forest fires in the western part of the province. Yesterday, I was talking with one of my brothers who lives in Yellowknife, and yesterday they received a generalized alert, a citywide alert, telling people to get ready to evacuate. And it's not funny that when people are stressed out and they're experiencing a lot of smoke, he was saying that he couldn't even see the towers because of the smoke. Now, Mr. Saint-Poirier had asked a question with regard to a tree that was dead at Sainte-Thérèse and Sunset, or the street before Sunset. There was a big tree that died, and he had asked a question about it, and the answer was that the tree belonged to an owner. Now, there are electrical lines that pass that are close to that tree, but if that tree were to fall, who would be responsible for that? This is a huge tree and it's dead. It's still standing. So I understand that the city can't do anything, but what I'd like to know is, if that were to happen, who would take the responsibility if the owner did not take responsibility for the tree? What would happen? Mr. Boy is not here, but that's something that I wanted to raise tonight because I saw the tree myself and it's a huge tree. Your worship, maybe just to, because you asked me a question last week, but um, the province has been notified. They have certain powers as well, but that tree is on private land, and it's up to the owner to take measures. But it's outside. It's out of our control at this point. All right. Thank you for the answer, and I would like to now wish everyone an excellent day tomorrow to all Acadians. Take out your pots because at 4:30 we're going to start making noise. It's 4:30, right? 4 o'clock. Okay, we're going to wake up the city. So happy festival or happy Acadian Day tomorrow.
Thank you, Councillor Boudreau. Thank you, Your Worship. I only have one question. I received a call from Ms. Lausier. She was facing an emergency situation on one of the city's trails. She had to give first aid. She called the ambulance service with some passersby, and she said it was really difficult to explain to the EMTs where she was on the trail. She was able to do so in the end, but to indicating where she was, the direction to get there, it wasn't easy, but she was able to get it across. And I'd like to congratulate her in passing for having given first aid. But my question is, do we have a calendar? Do we have an idea of when we're going to have a name on the different trails, the different circuits identified? And have we considered putting putting signs at certain distances that would have an indication of where you are on the trail, or with an identification number? You could say, okay, I'm at post number such and such on the yellow trail, and ambulance New-Brunswick could be could find the exact spot much easier. There is a signage program that is in discussion, that is being prepared now, and it's part of the active transportation master plan. So we are in discussions, and I will share the information that you just shared with us with the people in charge of that, to see if they can take that into consideration as they develop the plan. But there are signs on the street names and that. But yes, perhaps we can do more to help identify a location on these trails. So yes, there will be things coming within the next few months. Yes. But even just at the exit, when you leave a trail, so you go from one trail to another, you end up on a street, but you don't necessarily know where you are. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with the city, you're on a street, you cross the street to go to the other trail across the street, but you don't know where you are. It would be nice when you leave a trail, or when you come onto a trail, it would be nice to put an indication of what the street is. You are now on Book Street or a road, yes, there are certainly improvements we can make. And as you know, the master plan, the active transportation master plan, includes a number of recommendations. So we're going to follow up on those and come up with solutions for you. Thank you. Thank you for that. And have a great National Acadian Day tomorrow, and happy birthday to Councillor Turgeon. Thank you. Councillor Leboutier. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question on patching. A resident, and I was wondering myself actually, but when we do some patching work, is there a strategic reason why we patch over the pavement? Is there a reason? I mean, it gets really bumpy. Is there a reason we do that, or could we just fill the holes instead? Like, could somebody explain that to me? Why it's done like that? Well, I can try and respond. Patching is public works, but you're asking though why there are bumps when they do some patching work? Yeah, yeah. There's certain areas where you repair the pavement and you don't feel it, and then in other places it Macy because they patched and patched and patched, it becomes bumpy. But I'm just wondering if we, when we issue a contract, do we have specific standards on patching, and do we check afterwards to make sure they've met the standards? Contracts comes under public works and they decide where, and they know more about the standards. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody here tonight. No, it's just, I don't need an answer right now. It's just as a resident had asked the question, and so I was just wondering. Yes, well, perhaps the question's been asked, so perhaps we can get you an answer later on. Is there a difference between patching and the whole resurfacing, the whole redoing the whole pavement? Is there's also a process somewhere between the two? Yeah, of course. Patching contracts are done very quickly. They could do a little. They could do the milling first and the paving, but that would that would be much more expensive, of course, and it would take longer. So patching allows us to spread out our budget and fill in the worst spots. But I can check with Public Works, the people in charge. Yeah, no, but my question is really specifically on patching, if to see if there are any standards that need to be met. And yeah, so for me, that's no, no, to come back to the question asked by Councillor Thibodeau on the emergency systems. Here in Dieppe, if we were to have an emergency situation, do we have an emergency communication system in place for different possible incidents? Do we have our own system like some municipalities have? Or I don't know if we need one or not, I don't know, but have we thought about it when we developed our emergency response plan? We don't have a system that is specifically for um, alerting our residents, but we do have a number of residents who are subscribed to our info news, our Dieppe news bulletin. So we could ask the province. We can ask the question of our fire chief, of course. Okay, well, thank you. And I would like to, well, wish everybody a good day off for the lucky ones who get the day off. Yeah, for the lucky ones who will be getting this wonderful National Acadian Day to celebrate l'Acadie demain. So have a great Fête Nationale de l'Acadie and have a great celebration, and happy birthday to my colleague, Conseillère José. Thank you. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the summer. Thank you. Councillor Godet. Thank you. I would just like to thank staff of the city of Dieppe for having widened the Fox Creek Trail at Dover Trail. That has greatly improved the visibility. I was on the bike on the trail before that, and beforehand, you would go in a curve and you'd never see if anybody was coming. So now it's been greatly improved. And I'd like to wish everybody a happy Fête de l'Acadie. And I also would like to wish everybody a wonderful Fête de l'Acadie. And I'd like to wish a great day to all of our citizens, because I know the majority are Acadian, but whether they're Acadian or not, everybody's going to celebrate August 15th. So I hope that everybody will remember this great event that it will be. And speaking of events, there's one that's underway right now with the Mali community. So when you go outside this evening, you'll see that it's a celebration of some residents from Mali. And ever since the beginning of the summer, every Monday night, we recognize a different community. And this evening, it's the community from Mali. So, and all those of you who are still on vacation, please enjoy the rest of it. And we hope that the weather will be mild, will be good, and we often talk about the challenges facing the municipalities, and there have been floods in Dieppe. I remember the Champlain Street in front of the Tim Horton. I remember when it was completely flooded over and destroyed, and right up to in September 99. Yes, that's right. It was in September 1999. And I think it gave us a good lesson here. To now, whether or not we're covered throughout the municipality, that's another issue. But we certainly don't hope it happens, but we do hope that we will be able to react effectively if we do face some sort of incident. And all of the issues that were raised this evening will be uh, sent to the fire chief, and we will make sure that we are ready to face anything. So have a great rest of month of August. Have a great 15 août, August 15th, and we'll undoubtedly see you tomorrow evening. And there are these recognition events. There are some events of recognition on August 19th in recognition of the Dieppe raid. And that will be celebrated on Sunday, August 20th with our veterans. And we invite the population to come join us and all of council members, of course, for this event. The evening before, they read the names of all of the Canadian soldiers who died on the beaches. So we invite you to come. We're always looking for people to come help out and read the names of all of the Canadians who lost their lives on the beaches of Dieppe. So have a great evening, everyone.